Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane studio downtown in the capital city on this Tuesday. Hope that work week's off to a good start. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Jordan Kitchens, Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Plenty to do over the course of the next 2 hours. I think it's a big week for Will Campbell. I'll briefly touch on that at the end of hour number one. Glen West will be with us talking Tigers. ESPN.com asked its NFL beat writers to redraft the first 2 rounds. How did the Saints draft picks stack up in that exercise? We'll get into a little bit of that. I wrote a preview at LouisianaSports.net detailing LSU's shortstop position. We know where that starts this year with Stephen Milam, but I want to get into a little bit more of that at the top of hour number 2. Sharif Ishak talking Saints with us at 2:30. So plenty to get to. Let's crank it up with our opening drive.
Welcome to the big league.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Fabry Chevrolet GMC in St. Francisville.
I'll be honest with you. I got a little bit of a new schedule here with the website and 2 kids. My hours are not quite what they once were in a previous set of circumstances. So when LSU got a commitment from Adrian Lamb last night at 10 o'clock p.m., I was asleep. But it's good news, and I can talk about it now. Adrian Lamb, a junior college ad to this LSU signing class, and he actually will not be able to arrive in Baton Rouge until after he finishes this semester over at the Georgia Military College. He will be a May enrollee for LSU, so a little bit more traditional in that sense. Junior college, got to spend his final semester at that junior college, getting those academic things taken care of, and then he will come to LSU. But Lamb is a very interesting prospect. Measurables, 6'6", about 300 pounds. And that's good size. What really interests me about Adrian Lamb is who LSU beat out to get him in this cycle. Alabama was very interested. South Carolina was very interested. Auburn was very interested. And ultimately, LSU lands Lamb. And LSU was in a spot literally 1 month ago because the portal opened on January the 2nd. It's now February the 3rd. So 1 month ago, you were looking at an offensive line that may or may not have Braylon Moore, may or may not have Weston Davis, probably returns the Bordelon brothers. Feel like you got Solomon Thomas coming back. But everybody that had really played outside of Moore and Davis was leaving. Carius Kern, out. Cohen Eccles, out. Tyree Adams, out. DJ Chester, out. Paul Mabenga, out. Like, everybody was going. And there's good and bad in that. The fact of the matter is that LSU's offensive line didn't play very well the last 2 years. Some of those guys played a lot of snaps on lines that weren't very good. So if you want to frame that as a positive, you can. A lot of those guys are pretty young as well. And the negative is you don't have some talented players. Like, I think anyone would have probably taken Carius Kern back. I think Cohen Eccles showed some real toughness on the interior of LSU's offensive line very early in his college career. Tyree Adams held his own at left tackle. Like, I don't think all these guys were just very, very poor players. I think there were some guys that didn't live up to their high school billing. But you had to go restock the shelves in a big way. And it started pretty slow. You go and grab a couple of guys from lower levels, junior college level, from the FCS level, and you had 14 commitments in the portal class before you took anybody on the offensive line. But you started to fill things out. And now you know where we sit with this offensive line. And I do think that Adrian Lamb kind of fits into what LSU wants to do next year. I'm not guaranteeing him a starting spot, but I'm not telling you this guy's going to the bottom of the totem pole because he's a late enrollee and he came from JUCO. Like, there are only 2 positions on that offensive line that I would etch in stone that nobody is coming for. Braylon Moore is your center, and Jordan Seaton is your left tackle. You've got competition for the other 3 spots. Now, Weston Davis is an incumbent at right tackle. I think he's fighting for his job. I think he's fighting for his job with Devin Harper. I think he's fighting for his job with Adrian Lamb, who comes in and has some tackle experience, played some left tackle at the JUCO level. And I think he's fighting for his job with Sean Tompkins from Baylor, who played some left tackle for Baylor and can play tackle. I think that group fights for right tackle. Weston Davis, Adrian Lamb, Devin Harper, Sean Tompkins. That's 4 guys for 1 spot. I love those numbers. I think those numbers work great. And then you can fill in your guard spots. I think Aliou Ba takes one of those. And I think the group that I'm mentioning that's fighting for right tackle takes another one. And then I've got 2 more guys from that list, not to mention Solomon Thomas and Darren Stray and some other guys that have Power 4 pedigrees that you can bring into the mix to compete. All of a sudden, your offensive line looks pretty strong. And I know that I did something very similar to this segment a week and a half ago when you got Jordan Seaton in the boat. And he was the one that really changed the entire complexion of this, because I don't really want to play games at left tackle. I don't want to try to run a rotating door and try 4 guys at left tackle in the spring. I'd rather have a left tackle and let the other pieces fall into place. And that's what you've done. And so that was the point of that segment when I did it. But the LSU staff believes Adrian Lamb has a chance to start this year. And I say that because this staff really, really prides itself. And that's Lane Kiffin and Billy Glasscock at the top. And then the position coaches on the offensive side that they've brought in. Eric Wolford is a little bit different because he wasn't there at Ole Miss. But certainly Kiffin and Glasscock feel as though there are some guys that they can identify that not everybody sees as a star that they can bring that out of. And you saw some of that at Ole Miss. Nobody was beating down the doors for Trey Harris leaving Louisiana Tech. Like, I didn't even remember him at Tech, and I don't remember anybody thinking it was a huge get for Ole Miss when he showed up. He was a star. He was probably the best wide receiver in the SEC. We know what happened at Kewan Lacey. He was at Missouri last year, and he didn't really do anything. Star. Now, not all of them hit to that extent. And Trinidad Chambliss speaks for himself in that way too. But they feel like one of the advantages they have as a staff is identifying some guys off the beaten path. Certainly, Lane Kiffin is going to go hard on Louisiana kids and 5 stars and recruit LSU's national brand. Like, he's going to buy into that from a high school perspective, absolutely. From a portal perspective, absolutely. But they're also going to do some of this. And I'll tell you, and I don't know, this is something I don't know, but it just makes a lot of sense. So if you connect the dots, I don't know how much Jordan Seaton costs, but I'm assuming it's a lot. Sam Levitt costs a lot. You go get those guys, you spend premium dollar. Jace Brown from Kansas State, premium money. Jordan Ross from Tennessee, premium money. But you can't go premium money on every player unless you're the Los Angeles Dodgers. Everybody else has to operate allocating resources properly. And so the best way to put together a great team and to create depth is to find value pieces to add. And this is something you can speak directly to when you look at the Saints salary cap, and speak directly to when you look at the Dodgers payroll or the Phillies payroll, or directly to when you look at what the Pelicans are doing. In college, you can't, because you don't know what they're paying these guys. But it just makes sense to look at the ads that LSU has made. And if you go grab a wide receiver from McNeese, you go grab an offensive lineman from North Carolina Central, you go grab, a punter and a long snapper, and you go to the junior college ranks potentially, that may be something that is a little bit more cost effective. Now, if Alabama and Auburn and South Carolina are heavily involved here, maybe not. Like, I don't know. I'm not speaking with firsthand firm knowledge. I'm just speculating here. I know that this is a junior college prospect that's not going to, generally speaking, cost as much as Devin Harper, especially with an exit fee you had to pay to Ole Miss with it for him, and Jordan Seaton, who's the top of the market. But you've got to hit on some of these guys. And maybe Adrian Lamb doesn't win the right tackle job. Maybe Devin Harper does. Maybe Sean Tompkins does. Maybe Weston Davis wins that job back. But Adrian Lamb has 3 years of eligibility left. So this is one of these guys you're bringing in that you have flexibility with and the ability to maybe develop. And he's got great tools, 6'6", 300 pounds, pedigree that a lot of SEC teams wanted him. Get him in the pipeline. Jordan Seaton's not going to be here next year. Maybe he's your left tackle of the future. Maybe he's your right tackle of now. But you may have a guy that can spend some more time in Baton Rouge. Anybody's guess is as good as mine on to whether or not he earns a starting job this year or really ever contributes at LSU. But I do know this, that the LSU staff feels like they got a good one last night, and they're excited about getting him in May. It hurts to miss the spring, no question about it. But when fall camp arises, he'll be out there, and he'll be fighting for a spot. There's no question about that. And that'll be the case across the offensive line. And I think, as I said when they signed Seaton, and I feel that way, I mean, I don't know how much Lamb moves the needle, but certainly he doesn't hurt. The offensive line, to me, on paper, looks like a strength of the 2026 team. Not the strength, I wouldn't go that far, but a strength of the 2026 team is the offensive line. What a change of pace that is from August of last year, where we spent the entire preseason camp going, I really like everything they've got except offensive line. It's been a pretty impressive makeover of this group by Eric Wolford, by James Craig, by Lane Kiffin, by Billy Glasscock to get this group together. Adrian Lamb, probably the last piece to that puzzle. And it looks like a group that's deep, got some talent, got some real experience, got a potential first-round pick. It's a quality lot. And Adrian Lamb, kind of the last piece to that puzzle. So that's your opening drive, brought to you by Fabry Chevrolet GMC. Still got lots and lots to do here. Glen West going to talk some Tigers with us coming up here in 15 minutes. We're off and running. We'll come back with some Saints talk next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Fabry Chevrolet GMC. FabryChevrolet.com is the website. Of course, you can go see them. Highway 61 in St. Francisville. It's in a location that's been there for a long time. You're probably familiar with the location. However, it's under new ownership. October 1st, the Fabry family took over. You know the Fabry family. They've been in business here for 35 years. You're talking about 3 locations, 5 different brands, and they're so thrilled to have this Chevrolet point, this GMC point in St. Francisville. Make the short drive up from Baton Rouge. See this incredible inventory that they've got on the lot. You can see it all right there online at FabryChevrolet.com. They've got your certified pre-owned. They've got your new, no matter what you're trying to get into, especially if it's a truck, Chevy Silverado. They got plenty of them on the lot right now. It's a new year. How about getting into a new ride? Get that Fabry family customer service that you're so accustomed to and get you that new ride. It's Fabry Chevrolet GMC, Highway 61 in St. Francisville. You can find them online at FabryChevrolet.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Talk Tigers with Glen West. Go 24/7 in 15 minutes. A cool little exercise here on ESPN.com. They took the NFL draft order from the 2025 draft and redrafted it. They gave it to their beat writers for each individual team. Said, okay, you're going to pick in the same spot, but you can take anybody who was on the board in this process and change your pick if you'd like to. And I thought that would be interesting because we've talked a lot about how good we feel like the Saints did in the NFL draft. So I was curious where the Saints picks would come off the board in this exercise. And one of the things that this does is it gets us a little bit outside of our bubble. That's something I like to try to do. We're in a bubble. It's a purple and gold bubble. It's a black and gold bubble. It just is what it is. And we think of things a little bit more favorably generally than sometimes the general public does. And I like to kind of, when I get an opinion from the outside, I like to bring it in and kind of see where it matches up with how we feel about it. So I looked in, and it didn't take me a long time to get to Tyler Shuck because the Tennessee Titans beat writer at number 1 stuck with Cam Ward. And I don't fault that. I think that's okay. I think Cam Ward showed some things in a terrible situation that were pretty good. We talked a lot about how in that Titans-Saints game, Shuck and Ward really played well in that game. And I don't have a problem with the Titans sticking with Cam Ward. However, The number 2 slot, Jacksonville traded up, and instead, the Cleveland Browns, instead of trading that pick and getting what they got for the Travis Hunter slot, they took Tyler Shuck. Second pick, Browns. And in the blurb by the beat writer, it goes as far as to say they missed on their picks of Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. I think that's like maybe a little bit premature to just completely scratch it off. You know, Shedeur's in the Pro Bowl, but Shuck was better. Like, there's no doubt. And the Browns have been trying to figure out quarterback for a very, very long time. Thought they kind of had it with Mayfield. That ended up not working out. And so he has gone on to greener pastures and done a better job in Tampa. But for Shuck to go second there, that's loud because it was a quarterback draft that included some other guys. Jackson Dart was in this draft, obviously. And I mentioned the 2 that the Browns selected in this draft, obviously. And the consensus is that, hey, you could take Ward and Shuck and shake them up, take whichever one you want. But the Browns thought enough to not trade back and take the picks that they got and just take Tyler Shuck. And I think that's a really, really good sign from the outside of the organization. Incidentally, the Giants did with that 3rd pick where they took Abdul Carter, take Jackson Dart right behind Tyler Shuck here in this exercise, and Will Campbell still went 4th to New England. But I think it's awesome that the Tyler Shuck is thought of as the second best player in this draft at worst, which is really, really cool thing. And now you look at what the Saints are going to do at number 9, and Kat Terrell, who covers the Saints for ESPN and made this pick for New Orleans, stuck with Kelvin Banks. And I don't have any problem with that either. I thought that you've got to have a left tackle, especially considering the fact that you've got a franchise quarterback back there. And they didn't have one on the roster. I guess you could feel okay with Fuaga, who wasn't a disaster, but then you don't have a right tackle because obviously Ryan Ramczyk's career now long gone in the rearview mirror and moved on from the Andrus Peat deal, and you didn't have anything there at this time last year. So got to go with Kelvin Banks. I think that is the right pick. Then I was very curious to scroll through because the Saints didn't have another pick for a while to see what other Saints draft picks I could find. And it didn't come quite as quickly as I thought. It actually took until, let me get this correct, the number 62 pick, which is late in the second round. There are only 2 picks beyond it in the second round. But the Buffalo beat writer in the second round took Quincy Riley. And I think that's reasonable. I thought Quincy Riley made some plays on the ball. I think he showed a willingness to tackle when asked to do that. And in a secondary that you're looking to rebuild, because you have to put yourself back into the mold of this time last year. And this time last year, you had just traded Lattimore at the deadline previously, and you realized you weren't going to keep a Debo. And the pillars that you had in that secondary were short-lived. So you've got to rebuild. And you didn't know at this point that Tyrann Mathieu was going to call it quits. So for Quincy Riley to be thought of in that way, I thought was very, very good as a second-round pick. That means the Saints obviously got great value with Shuck. The league believes that got great value with Kelvin Banks. And then someone outside of the New Orleans bubble thinks they got great value in Quincy Riley at number 63. So I thought that was very, very cool. And the last piece to this puzzle is the Saints' second-round pick. Because in this scenario, you took Shuck at 40. Well, you already took Shuck was gone at 2. So what would the Saints do in this instance? And I thought the pick was interesting. Kat Terrell made it, and I'm trying to reconcile it. I don't know that I have yet. Cam Skattebo. Now, he got hurt, so we didn't see enough. But that would obviously mean you weren't going to take Devin Neal later on, and this was going to be your running back of the future. I don't know about it in that spot. I don't know about it. You're shaking your head, Jordan.
No. That was like a jump scare a little bit. I thought you were going to say something like, okay, I can kind of see it. Nah,
got this edge rusher there. No, it just wasn't there. And some of the guys that were available in this deal, Will Johnson.
What are we talking about?
Walter Nolan, Mason Taylor, Trey Harris at wide receiver. These guys are available. And
that's on the board still.
She goes to Scat. Now look. Kat is not necessarily trying to build a roster. Cat is trying to create some entertainment in the offseason here.
Yeah, you're right. And
okay. So
it's not Madden. It's not Madden.
Right. But I mean, like, I'll tell you this. You could put Mike Green, which, hand up, I'm not really sure who that is, but he's right down there on the list. I don't like. I'll click on Mike Green to see who that is. I don't think Mike Green is a linebacker for the Ravens. I don't know who he is, but I know if she could have put Mike Green, I'd have been like, well, I don't know who that is. You put Cam Scadaboo, it's like, oh, dang, well, that's interesting, and then it makes me talk about it. So that's kind of the point of the exercise there as well.
It was good bait. It made me go like, wait, what? What's going on?
Cam Scadaboo.
Yeah, you're right.
So
good bait.
I think
bait.
it's off-season fodder. There are only 2 teams that are still in season. Yeah. Everybody else is in off-season mode, and I thought it was interesting. And ultimately, what it comes down to is this bottom line that I'll probably regurgitate 15 times between now and the draft. The Saints, by all accounts, did well in the draft last year. These guys that did that have to come back and hit one more time. If you hit one more time, like, you can really look at this thing 4 years out and feel like you've got a real window to make a push. Like, how far that push goes, I'm not here to tell you that, but it changes the framework of the organization from October this past year in a way that we knew was ultimately possible, but unlikely. It was possible. It was unlikely. And if you can just hit on one more, and candidly, like, you probably need to find a Pro Bowler in this draft. Like, maybe it's your first round pick. Maybe it's your second round pick. Maybe you strike gold in the 4th. Like, but you probably need to find a Pro Bowler, like a game-changing player. And you need to add starters that are cheap. And that's the goal here. And when I sat here and bashed this front office mercilessly in October, I think it was deserved. I don't regret doing that at all. But that doesn't mean when I bash them in October because they haven't drafted worth a flip and the salary cap situation is terrible and you're 1-7 or whatever they were, and Rattler doesn't look good, and you haven't seen Shuck, and everyone's assumption is that Shuck's worse than Rattler because Rattler's out there playing, and you just can't really look around and find any positives. I'm going to call it that way. But Shuck looks good. Draft picks look good. Salary cap has been raised. Your financial situation looks a little bit better. It looks even more positive when you consider that the quarterback is on the deal that he's on. And now you've got one more draft to knock out of the park. And if you can do it, you can consider yourself a significant threat in the NFC South for a handful of years to come. That's just not hyperbole. It's not overstepping. It's not stepping out of bounds. It just is what it is. Now, your confidence level as a Saints fan, maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, a 9 because of what you saw last year. It may be a 2 because what you've seen for 15 years. And I wouldn't blame you for either one of those. Period. Maybe you think that Kellen Moore really had a positive influence on this past draft and that they've got a better plan and that they're not trying to force the issue anymore because they're not chasing Breeze. Like, okay, and maybe you think that Loomis and Ireland have screwed this up way more than they've gotten it right, and they found a lucky draft 15 years ago, and they found a lucky draft 7, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, and they won't find another one for another handful of years. And I wouldn't fault you for that either. Neither one of those are unreasonable positions, and neither one of them are going to impact whether or not they get this draft right. Just going to have to hope. And I think there are some Saints fans that are hopeful, some that are feeling a little apprehensive, but I'm going to choose at this point to lean on recent history and hope that there's one more really good swing at a draft class. And then and there's no pressure to hit on quarterback now, which is the ultimate pressure, knowing when to make that leap to go get it. And they finally did it in the second round last year, and it looks like it's a hit. That's kind of where we sit with this thing. Jordan?
Yes, sir. I just think that...
Are you closer to the 10 confidence or the 1 confidence with this front office, this draft singularly? The one coming up, that's it.
Ooh, bro.
5 or 6?
I don't think it's
4
that
or
low.
5?
I can't do that low, and I can't do the 6 or 7. I gotta stick with it. I tried to slide that one in. I'm gonna give Mickey credit because the noise was very loud. I was extremely loud last year because I didn't think he had it. Thought his fastball was completely gone. He came back, got a little bit of juice, sitting at 95 right now. which was a shocker because he was throwing a lot of meatballs. But, I'll give him I'm going to say an 8 right now. 8's high. Only because he's playing with house money with this top 10 pick. Right there at pick number 8, because you're going to be in a prime position where you might have somebody that falls into your lap, and you're really not going to have, like, guys that you don't need sitting at that spot. So you have house money, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm giving Mickey the benefit of the doubt that he can come through with some house money this time. So I'll say 8.
Got to hit on the 8th pick. All right, so look at the black and gold. Glen West talking Tigers next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
First American Bank and Trust. First American Bank and Trust. And when I talk about First American Bank and Trust, what's most important is that you understand two things. One, it is a local community bank, and all the decisions are made here in your community. The people that work there are in your community. The people that make the decisions on your commercial loan, on your personal loan, are here in your community. That is number one. And number two, don't hear that and go, oh, well, is this like a mom and pop shop? Like, I'm a sizable operation here. I've got to have a serious commercial loan. Can they handle that? They can. They have 25 locations. So you get the best of both worlds. You get all the resources you need from your bank, and you get the community feel and the relationship and the customer service that comes with the community bank. 25 locations throughout Southeast Louisiana. Whether you're in Jones Creek or Dutchtown, just outside of Baton Rouge, down in Metairie, maybe you're St. James, St. John Parish, up on I-12 in St. Tammany, Tangipahoa. No matter where you are in Southeast Louisiana, there's a location nearest you. They've been at this for 116 years at First American Bank and Trust. Go by and see them. Tell them you heard about them on the Hunt Palmer Show. If you're looking for a personal loan for that home, they got you. You're looking for a commercial loan, sizable one, they've got you. It's First American Bank and Trust. First American Bank and Trust.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Left Sharice Ishak in an hour talking Saints. My preview of LSU's shortstop position coming up in 30 minutes. That's straight up 2 o'clock. This time every week, we go to the Jim's Firearms Hotline, talk with our guy Glen West, senior writer at Go 24/7. Give us a little time right now. Glenn, how are you?
Doing great, Hunt. Who you got starting at shortstop, by the way?
I went with Stephen Milam. I'm an insider. I got sources, and I figured I'd tap into that, see what I could. I made some calls, and that's what I came up with. So we'll see if I'm proven right coming up on Friday. You feel good about that pick?
Yeah, I think he's got some good upside. A guy that's got some experience, and I think he's going to be a good value play, everyday player for LSU. I agree.
We're going to pepper the board here with all the sports. I'm going to play a little true or false and then allow you to elaborate further once you give your answer. Start with football. Weston Davis will start at right tackle against Clemson. True or false?
I'm going to go false. I'm going to take the field. I think that there's a lot of other options out there that LSU is going to be experimenting with in this fall. So I'm going to take the field over Weston Davis.
Sticking with the offensive line, this is subjective, but just kind of flesh it out there. The offensive line will be a strength of the team in 2026.
I think that's true. I do think that they'll be greatly improved. I think, having Jordan Seaton manning that left tackle position, Braylon Moore at center, I love a lot of the pieces that they brought in, whether it's Devin Harper from Ole Miss or Sean Tompkins from Baylor, Alou Ba from Maryland. Those are just a couple off the top of my head, but there are several others, and they've done a really nice job of, I think, giving themselves a lot of options and a lot of opportunity to fill those other three spots. And you're just going to have to let the best man win, and hopefully they have some good depth behind those guys that is also able to kind of ascend over the next several months.
Yeah, I think that Seaton was the linchpin. Once he anchored the left, you have enough options at the other three spots outside of Moore to make it work, and I think that's kind of where I stand on it as well. This is a little bit of a long-term deal, but Husan Longstreet will start a game at quarterback for LSU in his career. True or false?
I'm going to go true. I think that they were very smart about the way that they obviously built this quarterback room. I think that Longstreet is a guy that they have pinned in there for a long-term project, future kind of guy, and I think really honestly he could make a big first impression here in the spring and into the summer with Sam Levitt still recovering from his injury. So I think there's a lot of opportunity here for Longstreet to earn that kind of confidence in this coaching staff, and if he does, I think that sets up well for him in his future here.
All right, let's go to basketball. Joe Lunardi will type the letters LSU again this season. True or false?
I'm going to go false. I think this latest step back too, with now De'Don Thomas not playing, not really sure what the future holds for him in terms of his injury and just how long this latest re-aggravation will keep him out. It's going to be really tough for this team to win the kind of games that they can realistically get themselves back into this kind of a picture. It was good to see them win on Saturday. I thought they played really well offensively, even without De'Don Thomas out there. But, I mean, it took overtime to take one of the worst teams in the SEC to get that win for them. So, if you beat Georgia and if you beat Arkansas at home, maybe we could start having a little bit of a conversation. But I think outside of that scenario happening, I don't see any way LSU can kind of climb themselves back out of this hole.
I'll follow up to that. If they beat Georgia and Arkansas, they'll be in Lunardi's next bracketology because their metrics are so good from their efficiency numbers. They're in it dropped to 60 when they lost that game to Mississippi State, but that would bump them back up into the 40s, and at that point they'd be they would be in the picture. But again, I don't think a lot of people have them beating Georgia and Arkansas. So to your point, that's probably where we stop there. All right, let's move on to baseball. LSU plays 4 games its opening weekend: Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. William Schmidt will start one of those 4 games. Take it or leave. True or false?
I'm going to go false. I really like a lot of the things that William Schmidt's done. I've heard a lot of the great things about what he's been able to do over the last several months. I just think that this is a really, really deep staff, and I think it's going to take it's going to leave a lot of options open for LSU. These are kind of the 4 that I have in the back of my mind right now. I'm not sure if yours are any different, but Kason Evans, Cooper Moore, Cooper Williams, and then also Zach Cowan are the 4 that maybe I've pegged as maybe those guys that get those opening weekend starts.
I know that those are the 4 guys they've trotted out there on the first scrimmage of the weekend the last few times. My gut tells me, and this may not happen, so then we'll see. If LSU's in a tight game on Friday of next week, I wouldn't be shocked to see Zach Cowan come out of the bullpen in that game to try to win it because they've got other options. But I think he'll probably have a starter on Friday. He'll have a starter set for Saturday. I don't think he'll have one for Sunday or Monday, and then he'll just figure it out after they play 2 games. That's kind of what I think. So I'm pretty well on your wavelength there. This one I'm curious your thoughts on. Zach York will start 50-plus games at first base. True or false?
I'm going to go with true. I've really liked what I've seen from him as a defensive player, and I think that's honestly what's going to keep him in the lineup. I think his bat, he's a very savvy hitter, very smart hitter, doesn't get himself out, doesn't chase pitches very often. He's somebody that I think is going to be an everyday starter for LSU. I mean, I really think he's improved defensively. They've really liked what they've seen over there defensively, and I have no reason to believe that he won't be in there as long as he's healthy and as long as he's swinging the bat well.
If you take the projected starting lineup, which everyone knows that 8 of them are pretty well locked up, 7 of them, I guess I should say, and then you got the pitcher. Then you got second base, which there are 3 guys. You've got Dardar, you've got Simpson, you've got Reeves. Is there anybody outside of that big group, the projected starters and then those 3 at second base, that you feel like could find a way into the starting lineup by the middle of the season?
That's a great question. I think Mason Braun, the freshman, is very interesting to me. And, I know you just asked me the question about Zach York, but if Braun is kind of, a guy that they can really turn to as like an everyday hitter, a designated hitter, I know that they've trotted him out there a little bit in the outfield. They've experimented with that. They've experimented with him at first base. I really like him. I like his versatility. I think a 4th outfielder for LSU could potentially be Daniel Harden. I really like him. He's obviously a lefty bat. He's very fast on the bags. He's a guy that's played a little bit in college. I know it's at a smaller level, but he's somebody that has some experience under his belt as well. So those are maybe the 2 that come to mind right off the top of my head. John Pearson's going to play a lot for this team. I think he's going to be, kind of a designated hitter, kind of a piece for them. And then, like you mentioned, those three guys at second base. It's just going to be about which one really sets themselves apart. And I think that they're all going to have a lot of opportunities here over the first month or so of the season.
I don't think I quite realized until a couple weeks ago just how left-handed LSU is. Because you consider York and Braun at first base and DH are both left-handed. At second base, you've got two left-handed options in Reeves and Dardar. Your shortstop can hit left-handed, and then you got two outfielders that hit left-handed as well. And you mentioned Harden. They could theoretically, if you're facing a really tough right-hander, they could put 6 lefties in the lineup, potentially 7. Aaron Beatty's going to be in there, and I think Caraway's going to be in there, and Stanfield too. But 6 is not a stretch at all.
No, I agree completely, and it's kind of a flip from maybe a couple of years ago when they had too many left-handed pitchers, and now they have too many left-handed hitters. Because I do think that LSU is going to want to try to get as many of those guys on the field as possible, but because Jay loves to have the right left rotation in his back pocket. But yeah, look, I agree completely with that. I think if LSU's facing a really competent righty, that they could certainly trot out 5, 6 left-handed bats and feel good with that decision.
And these guys I don't factor in right now, but your two backup shortstops, Kloss and Ruckert, who are freshmen, both hit left-handed. I've never seen a team with more left-handed hitting infielders, because by definition, 3 of your 4 infielders have to throw right-handed. And then he's got all these guys that hit left-handed. It's by design. He prioritizes that, but it's still, you just don't see that very often at all. Last one here, Glenn, before we get you out of here. Does LSU beat Georgia on Saturday?
I'm going to go no. I mean, unless Dedon Thomas plays, I haven't done a huge deep dive on Georgia yet, but I know that they're very good. I know that they're one of the more surprised teams in the SEC this year. And, just if you don't have Thomas, it's just, I'm not going to pick LSU in any game against a really, really competent SEC program. They need him. They need him healthy, and I just don't know that he's going to get there by Saturday.
All right, we'll see you in the PMAC, Glenn. We appreciate the time. Next week we'll talk some baseball.
All right, thanks, Hunt.
Glen West, senior writer at Go 24/7 team coverage, recruiting coverage. Glenn and the whole team over there at Go 24/7 have got you covered. He's with us on Tuesdays here on the Hunt Palmer Show. Remind you about my friends over at Ochsner. February is Heart Month. It's a great time to focus on your overall health and your wellness. Remember, heart disease is the #1 cause of death for men and women, and it's so often preventable. How could you prevent it? Well, stay active, exercise regularly, eat a balanced diet that's got fruits, veggies, whole grains, manage your stress, and try your best to get enough sleep. Avoid smoking. Try to limit your alcohol intake. Make your health a priority this Heart Month in February. Schedule your primary care appointment at ochsner.org/brprimary. That's ochsner.org/brprimary. Small steps today can lead to a stronger heart tomorrow. Check in with your local doctors. Make sure you're on track for a healthy 2026. Locations are all throughout Louisiana. Again, you can find them online at ochsner.org. Plenty to do here. We got one more second to go in hour number 2. There's a big week for a former Tiger, and I want to talk about why. We'll do that, and to close it out next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Fabry Chevrolet GMC. Fabry Chevrolet GMC. The entire inventory is online at fabrychevrolet.com. You know the Fabry family. 35 years in business here in Baton Rouge. 3 locations, 5 brands. Now they've got their point for Chevy GMC on Highway 61 in St. Francisville. If you're already up there in the Felicianas, quick drive. Over there in Point Capee, quick drive from there as well. Even if you're in North Baton Rouge or right here in the heart of Baton Rouge, it's just a quick drive up to St. Francisville to get awesome customer service, a fantastic group of people there to help you, and great service after the sale. You know you're going to get that with the Fabry family, and you'll get that at Fabry Chevrolet GMC. The service department there at Fabry Chevrolet GMC services all makes. So no matter what you're driving, they can help you out there at Fabry Chevrolet GMC. Check out that entire inventory online at fabrychevrolet.com, fabrychevrolet.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Musa will be with you coming up in an hour and 12 minutes for After Further Review. Matt and Rivers headed out to the Bay Area today. And Matt will be set up there Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, anchoring our Super Bowl coverage here, 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge. Ross Jackson also out there for LouisianaSports.net, covering the Saints angles that do crop up here over Super Bowl week. You know, it's wall-to-wall Super Bowl over on the big ESPN, and I noticed a segment the other day that I wanted to briefly talk about here as I close out an hour, and it was, is Will Campbell the Patriots' weak link? And I didn't watch every Patriots game this year. Like, I'm not going to act like I did. But I've certainly watched them in the playoffs, and I'm certainly aware of some of the struggles that Will Campbell has had protecting the passer. It's a tough gig to be a rookie left tackle in the NFL. But when you're the fourth pick in the draft, you got to go play. And I know that Will Campbell has allowed some pressures, and I know that he has allowed some sacks. And I wanted to go back and see what Pro Football Focus thought about his first season. And I'll tell you, his grades on PFF are pretty good. They're not great, but they're pretty good. 69.5 offensively, 69.1 in run blocking, 69.2 in pass blocking. So consistent across the board. He has allowed 8 sacks per PFF, 6 hits on the quarterback, and 23 hurries. The total is 37 pressures. So what that tells me is he's either winning the reps and getting great grades, or like allowing a sack. Like, it's not even that he's getting beat and it's inconsequential. Like, his bad reps are obviously resulting in negative plays, because if you allow this many sacks and this many pressures, you would imagine that your grades would be very, very low. And for as far as PFF goes, grades at 69 are not awful. Like, you see grades in the 40s and 50s consistently. The Saints offensive line, specifically at right guard, saw a lot of that all year. And Campbell hasn't seen as much of that. Here's what I earnestly believe about Will Campbell on Sunday. He will not be intimidated. He will not be scared. This is a guy who came into LSU in the spring, should have been a senior at Neville. And within 8 days, the new LSU staff said, he's the left tackle. Boom. His first game at LSU, he played left tackle against Jared Verse. First game. And yeah, he took some lumps that day. The whole offensive line did. Jaden kind of Supermaned his way out of it, and he ran around on the carpet of the dome a little bit. But that's a pretty big spot for a true freshman. And Will Campbell never batted an eye. He got beat a couple times, but never batted an eye. And he grew into a dominant player by the end of that year. And then for 2 seasons beyond that, he was fantastic. And I love the way he presents himself in interviews. Like, he's going to get a lot of questions at Media Day, which is probably today or tomorrow. Probably today. He'll get a lot of questions. And he'll answer them all. He gave a great quote last year preseason to us. He said, look, the standard at pass rusher and pass protector are very, very different. If a pass rusher gets 1 sack a game, they're an All-American. They're a Hall of Famer. If a tackle allows 1 sack a game, and this is a Will Campbell quote, you're working at Amazon. Like, you can't allow 1 sack a game. And I thought that was an interesting way to approach it. And I think he is mentally that tough. He knows what the standard is. You need to hold up. And he will. I don't care about the short arms. I don't care about the ESPN segment. Is he going to be the biggest liability for the Patriots? Like, he will show up ready to play. I can't tell you how well he'll play. But we talked to Will enough times over the last 2 years. He is incredibly confident. He is incredibly mature. He is an ultimate teammate, an ultimate winning player. And he'll get a lot better throughout his NFL career than he is today. But Sunday might be the biggest game he ever plays in. The odds are decent he never plays in another Super Bowl. Like, didn't we all think Joe was just going to go back and play in 3 of those things? Same thing for, like, Dan Marino. Like, it's Drew Brees played in 1. It's hard to get back there. Now, the Patriots would defy that. And the Seahawks ditched their Legion of Boom and Russell Wilson, and they've turned around and gotten right back. But this could be the biggest game Will Campbell ever plays in. And in that way, like, you got to be prepared to play your best game. And it's a big, big day on Sunday for Will Campbell against one of the best defenses in the league and one of the best defensive coaches in the league that will be ready 2 weeks to prepare to come after that Patriots offensive line. And if I learned anything from hearing Dave Aranda talk, I would always hear him say, we want to find mismatches. We want to find a guy we think we can exploit. And I'm not here to tell you whether or not Seattle can or will exploit Will Campbell, but it stands to reason if people on a national scale are suggesting he's the guy they want to go after, that they may well go after him. And I'm fascinated to see how he does. I'm pulling for him. Guy was always, always, always a stand-up dude when he came to talk to us. I remember him saying when they were going to play in the ReliaQuest Bowl, like, much rather be 8-4 than 7-5. Like, he took it one game at a time. And I'm excited to see what he can do on Sunday. He will be a topic of a lot of the pregame shows, a lot of the pregame coverage, and I'm imagining during the game. He's got a really good quarterback behind him. He's got to keep that guy upright. Kayshawn will be running out there, and LSU will be pretty well represented in this Super Bowl, and Matt's going to attempt to talk to a lot of these guys at Media Day when he gets that opportunity. But it's a big, big day for Will Campbell. It's bright, bright lights, the brightest they get in all the sport, maybe all of sports from our perspective. And he'll get that chance coming up on Sunday to man that left tackle spot for New England. That's it for hour number one here on a Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Missed any of our first hour, catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. You can search Hunt Palmer Show, Hunt on LSU, Hunt on Saints as well. When we come back, I'll preview LSU's shortstop position. What happened to Stephen Milam last year? We'll talk about it coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Let's look. We got to talk to you about One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Look, it may be a full-scale renovation remodel. It may be something that's as simple as a tub-to-shower conversion. If you've got an older tub, you've got a tub that's not functioning, you've got a tub you don't use. 6:30 in my house, we got 2 kids splashing all over the place in the tub. It's crazy in there. May not be the case for you. Get rid of the tub. If you only take showers, put in a gorgeous glass walk-in shower. Changes the functionality of your bathroom, changes the aesthetic of your bathroom, adds a little value to your home, just makes things all the more palatable. And David Duvall is happy to get in there and do it. Tub-to-shower conversion is the thing that he does the most of. If you're looking at financing options, he's got them. 0% up to 18 months. That is same as cash. Get that free consultation online, onebathandclosets.com. It's online at onebathandclosets.com, onebathandclosets.com.